To the extent that we live our lives in a manner that is consistent with the truth in our heart, we thrive.
Welcome to the Meier Clinics podcast, and you just heard a quote from one of your hosts, Dr. Lisa Day. Join our licensed clinical professionals from various backgrounds as they discuss fascinating mental health topics with a wide range of guests. Meier Clinics is a Christian counseling organization with multiple clinics nationwide dedicated to treating the whole person, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Welcome to our listening family. We thank you for joining us. Hi everyone, Kristin Sunanta Walker here, and I'm so excited on our roundtable discussions with Dr. Paul Meier. Paul, I'm so glad to talk to you.
It's wonderful. Being with you guys is not really like work. It's more like, catching up with your friends.
That's right. It's fellowship.
Listening in, We just catch up with everybody listening in. With our listening family listening in, with the rest of our family.
Absolutely. And Melanie, you're here too. Yay.
I am. Hi, guys. So nice to be here. Hey.
Absolutely. So, the one thing I want to start out with, and then we're going to talk about this award that you received, Paul, which I know you're not a big one for talking about these things, but it's really nice. So we definitely want to hear about it. But one thing I had come up for me over the holiday break was I had several listeners write in to sort of tell me, thank you so much for, the shows that you put out. And they were talking about many of our podcasters. It wasn't just about me. And they were telling me how many conversations they have in their lives, in their own head with me or with one of our other podcasters, like with you, Paul, or with you, Melanie, or with Joe Fusaro or Stephen Kovalkovich, or any of the other people, that are podcasters on the network. And I thought that is such an interesting dynamic that, we do our thing and we're not in front of a big audience where we can kind of see the reaction to, what we're saying. We're speaking into a mic and it goes out into the internet verse, and we don't know who it's really connecting with and who it isn't. And then you get this feedback that people are having conversations with one of us or some of us in their daily life based on what they've heard us talk about. And I thought, wow, there's a lot of people out there across the globe that are having conversations with one or a few of us that we're not a part of. That's a little interesting.
I like it. I don't have a problem with it because, I did live radio to 2 million people a day for 5 days a week for 20 years, and so I'd get all these letters, and stuff, and then when I'd go speak different places, people that listened to me for years would come up and that, I feel like you're my dad, or I feel like you're my brother, and that felt good, so I probably do that myself when I'm watching a football game or something. Imagine talking to Troy Aikman or somebody about that situation.
Well, that's true. There's like talking to Troy Aikman, but what we talk about is so personal. So what hit me was one of my friends that's in New Zealand and another one that's in Belgium wrote these very beautiful emails to me over Christmas and said, I'm having these conversations with you in different situations in my life every day, and I'm having them back and forth with you. And it really hit me in such a way that, wow, that's a whole other level. That's not just watching football or whatever. That's a different level. And it was very touching. And also it kind of freaked me out. Not in I don't want, please, my friend in Belgium and New Zealand and some of the other people that wrote in, please don't feel like I'm freaking out. It was just more like, I felt this responsibility about it. Like I need to be probably a little more cognizant of that as I move into this new year, Mm-hmm. But it's a great feeling. It's a great feeling to know that you can be part of someone's conversation in their own head, and that it's a positive conversation, and that feels really good.
I'll ask myself, I'll see a patient with something new, and I'll ask myself, now what would Melanie say to her?
Do you
What would
really?
Melanie say to him? Yeah, 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 I do. Yeah, you've got a lot of
I'm an actual
practical.
voice in Meier's head.
Us men don't have as much horse sense, as women do, I don't think.
I got you.
So sometimes I may know some statistics or a medication or something, but when it comes to practical things.
Well, I'll tell you the horse sense that Melanie and I had yesterday. We were out in the field with our horses, and we had to roll this. I don't know, listeners that don't have horses, just picture a Ferris wheel made of aluminum. It's much larger than you, and you have to roll it, and it's something that contains big round bales of hay. And here's Melanie and I, and this is our Sunday after Melanie got back from church. We're out in these boots. Melanie figured out that there was a hole in her boot, so she had all kinds of muddy visitors in her shoe that she wasn't expecting. And then me rolling this Ferris wheel through probably a football-sized length to get to a place where we could put the hay in it for the horses. And I face planted right into the mud. And I tell you, when I got up from that, I thought, this is the best day of my life.
Oh, why is that?
It just was so great to be there with Melanie first, and to be with the horses, and to be doing something that's so not my regular life, and to be with
the.
Yeah.
You felt like it was funny to fall down like that, right?
Oh, absolutely. I fell and I looked at myself and I went, this is awesome. I am caked in mud. This is the coolest thing ever. And my dog is probably eating like horse poop somewhere. This is so interesting. I'm going to have to deal with something not great later because of that.
That actually happened to me. That actually happened to me today. My last client that I had today, I was just typing away on her script, and all of a sudden my chair broke. And I mean, it literally broke. It literally broke, and I fell down on the ground. And so I just got up and brushed myself off and did the rest standing up and made a joke out of it. And I did that once doing the radio program too, where I fell down doing the radio program. Like that.
Did you?
Yeah. And one time I went to Cuba illegally, but I did it for Christian reasons, so I think God will forgive me for breaking the law there. But anyway, I went to speak at a church, and they don't have much money over in Cuba. So while they were getting ready to introduce me, I was sitting on a plastic chair up on the platform, and while they were introducing me, the four legs went flat. They just all spread out, went flat. There all of a sudden, because I'm about twice the size of an average Cuban, at least over there. So I just made a joke about it, and
What do? You just, you either crumble or you laugh and you say, here we go, that's life.
So when you said that about falling down in the mud on your face, I think it's pretty cool that you just thought it was funny and laughed about it.
Yeah, I looked at Melanie and I said, here we go. And then she jumped in the back of the tractor that was delivering the hay, and she was like, I'm in heaven. I grew up on a farm. This is amazing. And I'm watching her go down this gravel road standing in the back of the tractor, and I'm standing there with mud all over myself and some in my mouth and some in my teeth, and thinking, this is a really good day.
It's nothing better than a hayride.
That's right. So Paul, tell our listeners, you just were awarded. Now you're so humble that you don't get into this, but you have to, because we got your email today. You received the Great American Award. So what was this about? Where were you when this happened? How did this come about?
Well, once a year, a group of politicians and people involved in government and people that are interested in government get together and for about a 3 or 4 day conference. And this year it was at the Cloister at Sea Island, Georgia. And I've gone to that. I've spoken at that maybe every 3 or 4 years. They'll invite me to come speak on a topic. And this year they invited me, and there were 2 British Parliament there too. In fact, the female that was there, Emma McClarkin, is one of the main people in the British Parliament that has to do with international trade and relationships with the United States. So it was really neat to meet her. And my wife and I spent a lot of time talking to her, and she invited us to come visit her at her home in England, and we just had a real exciting time. But they invited me to speak. I gave 2-hour lectures to all of them. One on the opioid crisis that we've done a couple of programs on, which helped me to hone up on it, and that went real well. And then and for that one, everybody got a copy of the devotional book I did. And I got to make this shorter because we won't have time for the rest of the program. but anyway, out of all the people that get treated for opioids, the scientific research shows that the ones that do the best are those that go to 12-step programs. And so I wrote, one of the books I wrote is Be Strong and Surrender. That talks about the 12 steps and all that. So I gave that to all the people that were there. But anyway, so that went well. And I also did a 2-hour program on happiness as a choice, and that was a lot of fun. But what happened on the last night is they have a banquet on the last night, and some people wear tuxedos and stuff, and I just wore a dark suit because my tuxedo didn't fit.
That's why that chair broke off. That's why that chair broke.
Mine would have too. Trust me.
So once a year at that thing, they give a Great American Award to different people, and the people that have won it for the last 20 years have almost all been politicians. And Dr. James Dobson won it about 4 years ago, and he was a non-politician. He's a psychologist, and so I was shocked when they announced that I was the winner of that this year. And so they invited me up. And they gave me a $6,000, about 35 or 40 pound carving out of one piece of marble of an eagle head, and done by a well-known sculptor, and he was there too. And somehow, when they asked him about whether he would, carve that for them, and he found out it was me, I had helped him somehow, maybe through my books or something.
Oh, wow.
And so he did it. It didn't even charge them. He did it for free. And he came to the program. He came there, and when I got the award, he was one of the people that gave it to me, and they explained that that he had made that, and he makes carvings for presidents and all sorts of people around the country, and that was a real honor. That really felt great.
Did you know ahead of time that you had won this award?
Oh, not at all.
So it was a surprise as you're saying it.
Yeah. In fact, I'll tell you a joke about it. I wondered why they put me at the head table, because why would they put a psychiatrist at the head table when you have all these political leaders and stuff? I mean, there was a senator there that said he heard my talk on the opioid crisis, and he said he was going to try to get a law passed to limit doctors that pass it out like candy and stuff like that. So, it did a lot of good. But anyway, they put me at the head table, and I did wonder why in the world would they do that. And then when it was time to go, my wife and I were in a room, and it was time to go, and I had 15 minutes, and it was in the same building that my room was in, and so I grabbed my suit, and the pants were missing.
Oh no!
The suit that I brought for that evening dinner, because you needed to wear a dark suit and black tie and all that, and my pants were missing, and I got frantic, and I looked all over, and finally I found out they had slipped off and fallen into the dirty clothes and got buried by dirty clothes. So I had to steam them. So we got there. So we were about 8 minutes late already, and they were afraid that I wasn't going to show up because they wanted to give me the award. And so they called our room and said, "Are you coming? Are you coming?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm coming. I'll be there in just 2 more minutes." And so I made it. in time to get my award. So, but that would have been disastrous. But
how do you handle that when you walk up and you accept something like that, and you're just, I mean, I know you.
I cried.
You're so humble. Oh, see, yeah.
I started crying.
Oh,
And then I tried not to. I mean, I stuffed it enough so it didn't show too much, But I started to cry when they announced it. I was still sitting at the table where we had dinner and with Ed Meese and the Emma McClarkin from the British Parliament, and with all these people, and sitting there, I just started crying, and then I stuffed it and went up and got the award.
And got up there. That's amazing. Well, you sent that email to us today. So
they said they gave it to me for pioneering, being a pioneer in the area of psychology and spirituality. Integrating spirituality with psychology. And one person that was there was on the board of Sir John Templeton, and he does a lot of donating in the area. He's an anthropologist. I mean, not anthropologist. What do you call philanthropist? No. What do you call somebody that donates a lot of money to
philanthropist?
Charities?
Philanthropist.
Yeah, philanthropist. Yeah. I don't want to call him a name, but anyway, my former prayer partner did research on that, on spirituality, and Sir John sent him $1 million a year for a lot of years to do research on that. Yeah, and when my prayer partner died, Dr. David Larson, a chair in the Library of Congress was named after him. And a majority of the medical schools today have a required course on spirituality, just to help the students, so they won't reject people, for their faith, if they want to pray, or if they do different things, and also so they'll understand that the research really does show that people that are spiritual heal a lot better than people that aren't.
Amazing. Well, I wondered what you were up to this holiday season. And that was one of those things.
It was fantastic.
Yeah. Well, Melanie, what did you think when you saw this? Because I know we were both chickens with our heads cut off today.
we were. The worst thing in the world that could happen to anyone these days happened to me, and that is my phone died on me. Yeah. So I was in a panic, and I do lots of work on my phone, and I also have children, so I need for them to be able to reach me if they need something. So I ended up spending about 3 hours in the Verizon store today trying to get my phone fixed, and I just couldn't. So I ended up getting a new phone. So anyway, we were running around. But when I saw this, I think it's wonderful that we stop and acknowledge people's accomplishments. I feel like it needs to be, something that is continued on. So I'm super happy for Paul that he's gotten some acknowledgement, that he's, I feel like this is an acknowledgement for his passion, because that's something that I really respect about Paul, is that he's still passionate about what he does. And every time he gets on, he's just, passionate about something new in the field of psychiatry. So that needs to be rewarded, because that passion is what reaches other people. So I think if we continue to reward that, then we'll be doing the general population a favor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking about what we do for a living, we've had a banner start to the new year. We've got more podcasters, people that already have a podcast that want to join our Mental Health News Radio network, people that don't have a podcast that are joining. As an example, we've got a mother and daughter joining our network that have written a book called Which Way, which is about generational trauma and that mother-daughter wound, and they're going to be doing a show together. And just, there's so many great people that are joining the network, and it's astounding to me. We've got an organization in Kenya that is joining our network, that of the millions and millions of people that actually live in Kenya, there are only 88 mental health professionals in all of Kenya, which
Wow.
is utterly astounding.
That's
And this incredible organization is trying to do something about that and be of service. And so we are gifting them a show. And I don't say that to say, oh, aren't we so great that we're gifting them a show? I don't mean it like that at all, listeners. I just mean, I would never let them or want them to, pay anything to do this. We'll do whatever we can to help, because look at their funding needs to go to what they're doing. It doesn't need to go, towards paying for a podcast. So we're going to donate our time and our skills to help them get on the air and talk about this and speak in their native tongue. And I'm so excited about all of these things that just right out of the gate in the new year, boom, 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 these incredible people wanting to do podcasts about mental health. And then we also, on the other side of things, got hit with a convicted cyber stalker that decided to make us a target. And it's been really interesting to have these blissful moments about what we see going on in the mental health field and how we can be a part of it. And then also have somebody that is clearly that we have much compassion for, because clearly there's mental illness here. And, this is someone or someones who have been convicted for crimes in this behavior. And how do we move forward? How do we keep doing what we do while we are also having an organization or a person that is actively trying to tear us down? So it's kind of an interesting conundrum to start this new year off with. So I thought we would dedicate a little bit of our show to the discussions around this kind of behavior, how you handle it, what's the best way to handle it. It reeks of narcissistic personality disorder. It reeks of sociopathy, psychopathy. And people need to know in this day and age of, being out on the internet, what are some of the tools that we can use to combat this kind of behavior. And so I thought we could talk about that today a little bit on this show, and we're going to be doing more series about this on our show too. So Paul, when I brought this up to you, what was your first thought when I said, hey, this is what's going on and maybe we should talk about it?
Well, it happens. I've got a lot of clients who that's happened to, that they've been stalked, and some have moved to a different state even because it was so scary for them. And it's really a lot more disruptive than people can imagine. And some people stalk in cyberspace. Some people stalk on the internet and places, or other places. But a lot of people stalk in person too. And about between 2 and 13% of males get stalked sometime in their life, and between 8 and 32%. Depending on which study you read. So, let's round that off and say maybe 10% of males get stalked by somebody, and about 25% of females. That means 1 out of 4 females get stalked at some time in their life. And in 1989, Rebecca Schaefer was a budding young actress. She was getting pretty famous, and she was only 21, and a stalker killed her. And after that, California passed the nation's first anti-stalking law. That was back in 1990. And but there's different kinds of. I had a stalker once, which is it's sort of a funny story, but it wasn't funny at the time. But there's somebody that I had treated who came from out of state, and but she didn't really stay long. She came to our day program, but she didn't really stay long, and so we assumed she had just left and gone back home to her other state. And but then we started getting emails and letters, and and I love you, Dr. Meier, and all sorts of stuff like that. And we would just email back, to quit doing this and stuff. And And then one day I drove home from work and I went in the house and she was laying on my couch.
Oh my gosh.
So, I mean, I laugh now, but it wasn't very funny then. And so I said, okay, get out of my house right now. But I'm calling the police. And I know who you are, and I know your name, so it doesn't do you any good to take off, because they'll find you anyway. So just stay in your car, wait for the police, and I'm going to call them right now, and they're going to come and talk to you. So they did, and they told her if she was ever in the state of Texas again, she'd be arrested. And that's the first time I really studied up on it, though, because being a victim of it, I studied more on it. And what you're really supposed to do is totally ignore them.
Yes.
Yeah.
If they follow you and they, say something to you, if you say something back, then they get more attached.
Yep.
So the more you say, really, we shouldn't have even emailed her back probably when she sent those crazy emails, because anything you do in reaction to what they do attaches them more.
Yeah, Melanie, what do you think about this? Because I know you've dealt with a little bit of this too.
Yeah, I mean, I've had quote stalkers in real life, and then of course you have this whole new opportunity for people to be kind of coward stalkers online, right? Because they can hide behind a screen and they don't even have to confront you. So I think it's just more opportunities for people to be bullies these days. I had a situation one time where I was seeing someone when I was in college, and a bunch of my girlfriends and I went over to his home, and this was someone that was from Jordan, and they were from like royalty. They were from they literally had bidets that were gold, like solid gold.
Bidet.
Not
The other toilet.
Exactly. Yeah. And so we go over to the house, and they make us, this very ethnic meal, and we all enjoy it. And there were tons of computers and monitors and stuff all over the house, which kind of caught me off guard. It seemed a little strange and out of place. And the guy proceeded to show me that on every single screen in the house was a picture of me.
Right.
And it was so scary. We all got really uncomfortable and actually kind of feared that we were going to be shipped overseas somewhere. Right. And we ended up leaving. And then there was another situation, and this made me really uncomfortable, because I was dating someone that was at East Carolina, which is a college in North Carolina. And I used to go down there and tailgate a lot, and go to football games with my boyfriend at the time that I was dating. And so I was always there, and the same people were generally around the same area when we tailgated. And I dated this guy for a little over a year, so I was down there a lot. And just by chance, the following year in college, someone from our high school ended up being a guy's roommate that literally for the last year and a half had been taking pictures of me without me knowing. So it wasn't like he was saying, get in the picture. He was taking pictures of me without me knowing. And they were literally all over his bedroom wall, over his bed. And as soon as he saw it, the guy I went to high school with called a friend of mine, because I wasn't that close with the guy that I went to high school with, but he knew that I was the one in the picture. So he called someone that I did know and was like, look, you need to tell Melanie that she needs to be careful down here, and not because this is what I walked into.
Hi, this is Dr. Paul Meier of the Meier Clinics. Our Christian counselors across the country have a goal of helping all those who come to us to become what God has called them to be. If you're in a situation where you're not at peace within yourself, or you just feel like there's joy that's missing in your life, we can come alongside to help you obtain peace and joy.
This message is sponsored by the Meier Clinic Foundation, a nonprofit Christian counseling ministry. The number is 1-888-7-CLINIC, 1-888-7-CLINIC.
And that was frightening, because it was something that was being done that I was not aware of. So those,
and a lot of them are paranoid. A lot of them are real paranoid.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them are dangerous and paranoid.
Absolutely.
Some are just narcissistic. There's a Australian stalking expert, Paul Mullen, who did a study of 145 diagnosed stalkers, and he said that some of the different types are the rejected stalking type, somebody who's experienced the unwanted end of a close relationship. Somebody that got rejected by usually a romantic partner, and so they go after. They want to stalk somebody to get revenge. So they pick somebody else out that they stalk, but they're getting revenge on the person they broke up with, and then some are intimacy seekers, like the one that stalked you. Sounds more like he thought he was in love with you, and did he ever do anything other than taking? Did he ever try to approach you or things like that, Melanie?
I mean,
or did he just have the pictures everywhere?
I remember I talked to him because, like I said, he kind of hung out with a group of us that all hung out together. And I mean,
but you didn't know.
No, and so we had spoken, and I noticed him looking at me sometimes, but it wasn't anything that really set a red flag off, because he was kind of quiet. He was just reserved and kind of quiet, so he had never really tried to. And I was always there with my boyfriend too, so I guess he just wasn't going to talk to me when that happened. But yeah, it was scary. It's a threatening feeling. It's very threatening to your safety.
It is. I had one where he had saved every single thing from all the way to high school, even a strand of my hair in a photo album, and
oh my Lord,
pictures of me in his closet, and just that he showed me very happily when I went on a date with him, and I was like, okay, it is time for me to leave now, and I have a fork in my back pocket, and I will use it accordingly. It was really bizarre, but I was also stalked by my biological father for at least 2 years. He was following me, and he exited my life because I had come forward that he was sexually abusing me, and so he was. I always felt like someone was watching me, but I thought I was just crazy, and then I would see a car down the street, and I knew that he was in it, and then he would take off the other direction. So that went on for a couple of years, but I was really young, 13, 14, 15 when this went on, so I really didn't, and I was in so much trauma that there was no way I could really process like what that meant. But in today's day and age, when we get into people being able to do this over the internet, it brings into a whole other level. They're able to put pictures of you on websites that you didn't give permission, but because they do it from a web server that's in the UK or that's in Africa or somewhere else other than the country that you live in, it's such a wild, wild west out there with the internet that you don't have some of the protections that we didn't have either because stalking laws have changed so much over the years. But it's a whole new world with stalking. And we've got somebody right now that's got me up with pictures of me with my therapy dog, for goodness sake, that is, written a whole piece about me that makes no sense. Anyone in the mental health field would read this and say, this is someone that needs serious mental health help. They've been convicted for this. They got out of prison and now they're, doing this again. And, you wonder, what the mindset is behind why someone, does this. And I think where we're different than some of the other people, even the person who went after them and was able to get a conviction and have this person go to prison over it was not in the mental health field. And we're a little different in that we are. So we have this different layer, this different context to look at where someone's coming from that would behave this way, even though it doesn't make it okay. We can come at it with some compassion, but it doesn't make it any easier to deal with. Gosh, here I am laying with my dog who's spent I don't know how many hours with psych patients doing mental health work, and here we've got this horrible thing written about us online. And I just kind of think, wow, that's a whole interesting thing, and I can't do much about it because it's being done from a different country than the United States. But I'll tell you what I've learned in dealing with this is the biggest thing that you realize you don't do is you don't engage. Like you said, Paul, you just don't engage. And you don't even email back. You do not respond. You report to authorities, what's going on so that there's a record, and you let your attorney know, and you let the internet service provider from where they're posting this information know so that there's a record of what's going on. But in terms of responding to threats and and all of that, you don't engage with the person that's engaging you, because the one that's doing this to us and using me as the target of our network is someone who will stalk an organization, and then when you respond, they'll turn around and send another fake email saying they're a different person with a whole different name, and say, oh, I'm here to help you deal with this awful person who's been convicted that's stalking you. But you do a little bit of investigative work and you realize it's the same person.
That's so crazy. That is nuts.
Yeah. So, we have a great attorney, and we've got great investigative reporting on our side. And you realize, oh my gosh, it's the same person that's doing this. And you just go, well, luckily, we're in the mental health field, and anyone that would read this kind of garbage that's put out there about me or about us is going to, just the spelling that's wrong and the way that it's written in the third person. And it's so inside the mind of someone that is severely mentally ill. It's easy to see right off the bat we're like the wrong place to target, because we have so many people, psychologists and psychiatrists and well-known, people that have been in a lot of counseling that can easily read things like that and go, there's something wrong with them, not with who they're writing about. So we're not a great target. So it's interesting to be one, but I still can't help coming at it from a place of compassion. And I'm not asking for a martyr. Well, for this person that they're so.
The stalker?
Yeah, really.
Well, most of them I don't have any compassion for. Most of them are just out and out evil, making evil choices. But some are mentally ill.
What
I do have
think.
compassion for them. Yeah.
That's
what these studies show. That some of them, like the guy that killed Lennon back in 1980, he was mentally ill, and he had a severe paranoid disorder, and sometimes those people, if you give them an antipsychotic medication, they'll quit stalking, but they're doing it because of mental illness. And so I would feel sorry for somebody that was doing it because they couldn't control it because their brain chemicals were screwed up. But most people that do it are just predators or control freaks, or there's some that fantasize, some that think that they're in love with you and that you love them back. There's some that are crazy enough to assume that you're in love with them, and I guess maybe that's why you don't say anything to their belief.
Yeah, that could be a borderline trait. Definitely borderline personality.
But a lot of them want to hurt you. A lot of them do it because they want to get even with somebody that you symbolize, or some people will stalk somebody that they used to date, and because they want to get vengeance on them for rejecting them. Their ego was hurt. It's crazy when you hear people say, why'd you kill her? Well, I killed her because she divorced me or she rejected me. Well, because I love her so much, I couldn't live without her. Well, if you love somebody, you don't want them to live with you if they don't want to. If you love somebody, you don't kill them because they decide they'd rather live somewhere else or go be with somebody else. You don't kill somebody that you love.
Yeah.
They just look at it. They're stalkers.
Yep, exactly.
It's not love, it's possession.
Exactly. And I'm not being, listeners, please don't think I'm being some sort of step on the carpet that is Kristin and just forgive everyone. I'm not. This certainly is disturbing and I don't like it, but I will not kowtow to someone that is threatening us and our organization and the things that we do and threatening me personally. And it's sad that someone would think that the network that we are, which is Mental Health News, is and has the most shows on the planet about things like narcissistic personality disorder, that we wouldn't figure out who exactly they are and that we're a good target. I got to think you're really off the mark here, whoever you are. It's the wrong place to target because we can see every single hole in the behavior that's going on here. I mean, what do we talk about? What are our most highest, rated shows? So it's interesting, when you get on the radar of these kind of people and you're like, wow, what you just got out of jail and you're doing this again. It's bizarre to me, but I'll tell you what I'm not going to do. I'm not going to be scared by it, and I'm not going to stop what we're doing because of it. And it's a blip. It's a blip on my radar. And the first thing I do is disengage. That's what you have to do, is do not respond. You just don't.
Yeah, it's so tempting to sometimes, especially when someone's trying to smear your name, right, Kristin? So,
yeah.
So tempting. That's like, we talk about narcissists and smear campaigns. And really, the more you try to dispel whatever it is that they've spread around about you, the crazier you look.
Yep.
So as hard as it is, anyone that would believe those things, whatever they're saying about you anyway, is probably really not your friend. So you just really have to rise above the situation and, exactly like you said, just don't engage. It's the best thing to do.
Yep. I believe in our listeners. These are smart people. They know. They've heard us. They've heard our shows. They've heard our other podcasters. They know the behavior that goes on, because what is one of the most atypical behaviors of someone with this kind of a personality disorder? It is to attack and then blame the person they're attacking for attacking them. That is the first thing that they do. And that's,
paranoid people do.
Absolutely. And so all of them will smell a rat, when they see it. So I bring it up not to, and I'm not going to say this, organization or person's name because I'm not going to give them any press, but what I want to say about this and why we're going to do shows about this on a lot of our podcasts is because this is a very real threat out there today with the internet and social media. This is a very real threat for millions and millions and millions of people. And what we need to do is educate people on how to deal with this, because what these kind of people want is they want your engagement. They want you to be upset. They want your life to be disrupted. They want you to have PTSD over this. They want you to have anxiety. They want you to stop your life because of what's happening. And you don't have to do that because of how they're behaving. There are ways to handle this kind of behavior that don't take you to those places, even if you're someone who has dealt with a lot of trauma and a lot of PTSD already. And so we're going to turn this negative thing into a positive and use it to educate. And that's kind of what we do around here,
Yeah. Yep.
I get police involved.
Yeah, we did. We spoke to the police in the UK, and they're involved, and they know what's going on, and there's a long record, and they've been wonderful. So you do the things that you need to do, but you don't engage with the person that's attacking you.
Exactly. Yeah, that just feeds them. It just gives them energy. It's exactly what they want, is to have some type of contact with you, even if it's negative. They're relishing on, and that they've had some control over your feelings, that
In
they
your
make
life.
you. Yeah, they love it. That's what they're trying to do.
So, Paul, when you're treating people like this, it's very difficult for them to admit, but you can tell, as a psychiatrist, like when someone walks in and you see, obviously, this is paranoid personality disorder. And same with you, Melanie. Like, you can see rapid speech, the obsessiveness and the way they're talking about something. You over time, maybe even not that much time, you see, oh, okay, we're not dealing with a victim here. I'm dealing with someone who's a perpetrator of abuse. So I want to start with you, Melanie, as we, close out this show. Like, when do you, when does the scale tip for you as a counselor that you notice this, and how do you change your therapy or your therapeutic conversation with someone when you realize, I'm dealing with a perpetrator, I'm not dealing with a victim, which they are victims, obviously, at some point in their lives, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's a really good question, Kristin. That's a really good question. And because as I'm sitting here listening and thinking, there are really moments that stand out in my counseling career when I begin to realize, and honestly, I mean, I remember it. I remember several that were just, it's definitely like a light bulb goes off.
Mm-hmm.
And you really, I think what I have done most of the time when it's happened to me is I've gone back and read over my case notes and really tried to understand exactly what was happening. Most of the time they're red flags anyway. There's such a level of instability.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no groundedness in these people. And so I don't know that I've ever really been surprised. But I will be honest, there has been 2 times in my counseling career, which haven't even has been a third as long as Paul's has been, because I'm not counseling anymore. I was actually afraid of clients and felt threatened. One time it was a spiritual issue. Someone had tried to kill themselves, and she came straight to me when she got out of the hospital. And and Paul, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It was just a very dark experience with her when she was telling me about what had happened. It was very removed. It was almost like she wasn't even in control of what she was even saying and telling me. It was very eerie. And I remember at the end of the session, all I really wanted to do was like run. I literally had this feeling that I wanted to run. And I remember praying after it because it just felt really dark. And then later on, years later, 2 or 3 years later, she ended up coming back to my office at somewhere different where I was practicing, and really kind of made a threat towards me about someone else I was giving counseling to. So, and for a long time, after that initial session where I told you I felt, kind of spiritually threatened in a way, I saw her for a long time, and I really, really had compassion about her, and never in a million years would I think she would show up in my office and talk to me and tell me about how her life is going for 40 minutes, and then for the last 10 minutes she threatens me, and not my life, but just the things she was saying was very threatening. So those moments do happen, and you just have to adjust and know that you've got the skill set to handle it, and maybe seek some supervision. I know I talked to my supervisor about it when it happened, for sure, but you never know what you're going to be faced with in there, do you, Paul?
No, no. I've been practicing for 42 years now, and I was just trying to think when Kristin asked that question. I really don't remember meeting any stalkers in all my career,
Yeah.
except for that one that followed me. I've been treating many, probably several hundred victims, and I'm not. Maybe I had some and didn't recognize it. Most people who are stalkers wouldn't seek help because they think there's something wrong with everybody other than them. Like narcissists don't go to a therapist for help unless they go to a therapist to tell them what they want to hear. And I'm just trying to remember. I'm sure I've seen, because I've treated. Maybe it's because I'm more of a medical type of guy. That if I saw somebody that was real paranoid and things like, I've seen a lot of paranoid people and delusional and things like that, and I put them on medications that make those things go away. And it could be if I talked to them longer and found out all the things that they had done that they never shared with me, that some of them might very well have been stalkers. But I don't remember treating any stalkers that I knew were stalkers.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've had a couple, Paul, it's been really interesting. We've had a couple that, wanted to be on my show, and then they wanted to be on other podcaster shows, and then they try to split me and the other podcaster. We've had some interesting, and not involving me, even just other podcasters try to do the split and all that with them. So
the borderline thing.
Yep, exactly. It's been really interesting. But the thing is, we're a mental health network, so we know the signs.
Yeah. Yeah. It's we've had some other stalker type situations on the podcast, Kristin, if you really think about it.
Good Lord, yes, Mr. NFL.
Yeah,
stalking my LinkedIn profile every single day and sending me emails and calling me from random phone numbers. Yeah, we've had some interesting ones, but you learn over time how to diffuse these situations. And I'd say this, some people might treat you, listeners that are dealing with this, like you're the one with the problem because it's happening to you. And the reality is that's misplaced. That's very misplaced. You're not the problem. Someone that is stalking you or is treating you this way, you're not the problem. People just don't know how to deal with it. So try not to take that on if you get treated that way. And we're going to talk more and more about this with other podcasters. We've got some police officials coming on to talk about these things and, really get into this. But the thing that we hear over and over again across the board is do not engage. So think of the hungry tiger out in the jungle, and the thing that gets them going is red meat. Don't give them any red meat, which is your attention.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It can be hard.
Scary movies about stalkers out there. You know what? My wife and I, as you know, like to watch scary movies.
Yes,
and,
you do.
We'll probably watch one tonight after we get done. But some of them are about stalkers, and some of them are based on true stories. So.
Absolutely, it's a real thing.
And I really feel for. There are some people that I've seen who were victims who actually moved to a different state because they were so afraid they were going to get killed. And there's some stalkers are smart enough where they don't do what's going to get them landed in jail.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, they threaten lives and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, tonight we're going to say we are giving out good information that everybody needs to know because we're in a whole new day and age because we've got social media, smartphones, and the internet. So these are conversations that need to be had. But first, I want to say I'm so excited that we're back together in the new year, the three of us. And I'm so happy for you, Paul, about getting this great American award. That just made my day when I got your email, and I know it did for me
thank
too.
You. It means a lot to me, and I really do love our country. And
yes,
I've traveled all over the world, training counselors and doing things like you're doing with the podcasts in Africa and things like that. I've gone to places that are really third world and slept on people's broken couches and things like that. And but when I get home, and so I love meeting people around the world. But when I get home, get off the plane, I've several times I've gotten down on my hands and knees and just kissed the ground. Because I love our country. I love the United States of America.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that
Well,
meant a
thank
lot to be, get a Great American Award.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to see you posting pictures, which I know you'll never do. I'm completely teasing of you lifting that 35-pound eagle, as you go to work,
I'll send you
just
some pictures. I'll send you some pictures. You can pull. I'll give you some, and you can, if you want to post one somewhere.
Absolutely, we will. This is Paul doing his arm curls as he drives to the Dallas office of Meier Clinics.
Yeah.
With a 35-pound eagle.
I'm not going to leave it here. I'm going to leave it at my home because I'm afraid if I left it here, somebody that broke in would steal it or something.
Yeah, I'm sure it's beautiful. Yes, we have to get pictures and put those out.
I'll do that. I'll send you some. We're done.
Well, thank you both, Melanie and Paul. I'm so glad to be back together in this new year.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
And thank you to our listening family for tuning in with us all these years. We love you, and we look forward to doing more great new shows coming the rest of this year. We hope you enjoyed this podcast. Tune in next time for another engaging discussion on relevant mental health topics. If you have any questions about Meier Clinics, please visit our website at meierclinics.com. That's MEIER clinics.com, or call us at 888-7-CLINIC. Don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or any of your favorite podcast apps. And please note that we are a member of and produced by Mental Health News Radio Network, MHNR network.com.